I can mimic really well, and I do mimic really well. It's something I found with selling furniture. Somebody would come in and they go, "Oh, hey mate, you know, I'm looking for a recliner, one of them layback chair things," and you go, "Yeah, nah, sure mate, no, come around this way." Whereas if somebody comes in and goes, "I'm looking to purchase a recliner," "Oh yes, of course, please come this way."
Meet Lori Emment, a local Broken Hill person who spent a lot of her life not being able to remember people's faces. She is today's guest on A Home in the Outback, an independent podcast about people living, working and creating in the far west of New South Wales. I'm your host, Catherine Waite. Lori spent a lot of her life being told that she was dumb, lazy and self-centered, and she believed it. She could see people's faces but never remember them. As a child, she would focus really hard on what her parents were wearing any particular day to identify them at the shops. She never questioned she was different to other people. As an adult, Lori discovered she had prosopagnosia after her mum watched a documentary on it. Finally, Lori had a name for something she had struggled with her whole life. Lori currently works at Willy Nilly Art, helping artist Amanda Johnson behind the scenes. Lori is a wonderful storyteller and impersonator, and this weekend she'll be performing in the local production of Steel Magnolias at Theatre 44.
I was actually born in Wollongong, but my family background is Broken Hill. My dad came over from Perth when he was about 5 because his parents had split and his mum had relatives here and work here. Long way to come for a job, but it came with a home, so that's where they went. And he actually lived just down the road, unbeknownst to my mum, who is a third generation Broken Hillite. And then they met, got together much later on, clearly. Moved to Wollongong for my mum's work. She was a road designer, designed a lot of the roads around Broken Hill area and that sort of stuff. And then they had me, and then my grandfather wanted my mum's help with his business, which was a local furniture store, North Economy Stores, which later became NES Complete Home. So they moved back to Broken Hill, and I think I was about somewhere under 1.
So pretty much born and bred Broken Hill.
Yeah, technically.
Tell me just a little bit about your grandfather, because he sounds like a really interesting and entrepreneurial person in Broken Hill.
Yeah, he's quite fascinating. And if you want a bit more information on him, we've got our family stuff on permanent loan to the Salford Street Railway Museum. So a great place to sort of check that out.
Who was he? What was his name?
So Ernie Johns. His dad had been a miner, and when he was dying quite young from complications from the mines like lung disease, all that sort of stuff, he made his 2 boys, Ernie and Percy, promise not to go down the mines. So at the ripe old age of 12, my grandfather went out and got himself an apprenticeship with a bookkeeper, and sort of everything sort of grew from there. And then he ended up going to business with a couple of other local guys and his brother, and they built up the Palais de Dance and Amusement Centre, which eventually my grandfather and his brother took over, and they had John's Brothers Joyland. So they had a skate rink, they had a carousel, they had all sorts of other amusements, they had dance hall and suppers and outdoor theatre, and eventually built the Crystal Theatre, which was an indoor theatre space, which they then turned into a movie theatre. When it burnt down, they made the Crystal Motel. Grandpa designed that and everything, and then ended up with the Palais becoming a furniture store.
So the Palais, the Joyland, where was this all located?
So this was on Crystal Street. It's where Inspired Home Living and Wanley Blinds are now. So quite a big block. Still has the skate rink at the back, is the car park. And it still has the sprung floor in the dance hall section. You can still wander along and hear it go creak, 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 creak.
So if you go to Inspired Home Living, where would you have to walk to find it?
When you go in, if you turn to the right, that whole section is dance floor. Yeah, the whole big, where the bulk of the furniture is, and then there's a further section down where I haven't been in there for a while, but I assume they still have the bedding down in the other section.
You kind of go down a stair or two, don't you?
Yeah, it's sort of a ramp, yeah. And there's that was where the supper sort of area was.
When did that close down? Like, did you ever go to that when you were a child, or was it long?
No, it was gone by the time I was born. They had the furniture in there by the 70s. It was definitely the furniture store by then. It had sort of been winding down on the amusement side of things, and Grandpa had started up a different business in Argent Street, which was sewerage, plumbing and hardware, and then, yeah, at the same time sort of moving the furniture into the amusement area.
What was it like growing up with your granddad into furniture? Did you help out with the business, or?
Yeah, I did. So my grandpa wasn't around for too long. Like we weren't around together for too long. But my main impression of him as being this really tough sort of man to everyone else, and then to me, he'd kneel down to my level and talk to me, and he was lovely, and always had a humongous jar of lollies at his house, which I was welcome to raid. And yeah, I basically grew up at the furniture store. I used to make my own games, lots and lots of hide and seek with the customers who did not know they were playing. Still tended to be reasonably good at it though. There's nothing like crawling through the triangle that back-to-back loungers make, coming out the other end and having this little old lady go, "Oh, hello dear, what are you doing there?" Damn, I got found. When I was old enough, I used to help out. I don't think I was brilliant at it, but I did a fair amount, and then I ended up working there in my 20s, from my 20s right through to sort of mid to late 30s, I think, and doing sort of everything as you do in a family business. You end up jack of all trades because you got to pitch in everywhere, because otherwise your mum's got to do the lot. So yeah, my whole family worked there at one point, which was quite interesting. So I had mum, dad, myself and my younger brother.
And where did you go to school?
So I went to Happy Day Preschool, and yeah, the Broken Hillites will know what I'm talking about. Everyone else is going, what? Morgan Street Public School, and then Broken Hill High School.
What do you mean? The Broken Hillites will know what I mean about Happy Day Preschool.
Oh, because there's only a couple of preschools, and people background check everything. It's like, where did you go? Oh yeah, my kids went there, or I went there, or da 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 da. Yeah, so that was probably the best school I went to.
Where did you go to high school?
Broken Hill High School. So 2 high schools in Broken Hill, not so much at the moment. No, yeah, a whole other podcast. But yeah, Broken Hill High. And that was interesting because the F block, the health block, used to be part of my dad's kindergarten. Like, used to be part of Central School, and then became the high school instead, so which is interesting. And the tram line runs through the field, the exercise field from the old tramway company, Silver City Tramway Company, that we used to have before we got a railway.
You go to school, you go to university?
Yes, I went to Flinders in Adelaide, which was brilliant. Really great place. Taught me a lot, mostly not so much about schooling, mostly about, the price of bread and milk and budgeting and living with other humans and being accountable for yourself and, dear God, getting up in the mornings, all that sort of stuff. And it was quite a learning curve. I was 17 when I went there, and I hadn't lived anywhere other than home before.
One of the things that I know about you, and I guess the reason why I really want to talk to you, is because you have a particular condition and it's affected your life.
Yes.
So let's jump right in and tell me, what is the condition you have?
Okay, so I have prosopagnosia, which is face blindness. So basically, I can see a face when I'm looking at a person, but once I look away, I have no visual of that face in my mind. I don't even really have impressions of it. It just goes. So there's a part of your brain called the fusiform gyrus, which does the complex animate objects like faces, and mine just doesn't function, doesn't do what it's supposed to. So I have to rely on the more basic object identification part of my brain, which lets you figure out what's a cup of water and what's a television and what's a blind and what's a chair. And for me, this is a human.
I found this absolutely fascinating when I heard your story. It took me a while to comprehend this. So when you're like looking at me, you can see me, you can see my face, but is it about memory or is it just you can't pull it all together?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I suppose the best way to sort of put it to people is to say that I don't know what I look like. And I see myself every day, but I can't remember what I look like. I've had to memorize certain things about myself. I used to work with kids, and we used to play games like Crocodile Man Across the Golden River, if not, why not, choose your favourite colour. And it would devolve into like choosing eye colour or something, and I'd have to turn to the kid next to me and go, what colour are my eyes again? So I've got that memorised now. But it took a long time to figure out that I had to memorise it. And stuff like looking into a mirror is a surprise every time. Reflective surfaces are a shock. I get there and I go, oh my God, that's what I look like. Right. So when I say I can't retain a face, I mean it. Like no faces. My niece and I were talking about this the other day. If you ever ride in a car or something and you imagine this creature or person or whatever running along beside you, a lot of people, I gather, do that. Mine was this big gargoyle thing, and he would destroy stuff when I was, pissed off and whatever. But it had no face, and I never questioned that until much later, until I found out about prosopagnosia. And then it was like, oh yeah, none of my childhood imaginings ever had faces. I don't know. You don't know what's normal until you talk to people, and you don't know what to talk about until...
You only found this out fairly recently, though, haven't you?
When I was about 38, roughly. So, yeah, it's a big chunk of your life to go thinking that you're seeing what everybody else is seeing and then realise that, no, you're not.
So talk to me, how did that come about that you figured and you started to research, or what was happening? So
my mum saw a documentary on prosopagnosia, and there was this sort of joking thing of, well, you're really bad with faces, ha ha ha. And then like within the space of a week, I managed to not recognise each member of my family. And it really sort of brought it home to, no, hold on, you are really, really bad with faces. Maybe you should look into this. And so I did. And there's not actually a lot out there on it. It's not researched very much because it's only about 2.5% of the population. Those who were born with it, like I was, it can also come about from head injury and really interestingly, sometimes now, long COVID. So really? I find that, really fascinating. Yeah, long COVID. People have had COVID and then walked past their family and just gone, well, hold on. So yeah, there's a lot. So the research was mainly done in America and then a bit New Zealand, not really anything in Australia. So I was, when I'd sort of exhausted all that I could read on it, which isn't that much, I started contacting the people doing the research, and we had a lot of emails backwards and forwards, lots of questions, and then they sent tests through, and I would do these tests and just be amazed at how difficult it was. Like there was one bit where they showed a screen of 6 faces for a set amount of time, and then they showed you another screen of 6 faces, and you had to go, well, which ones are the same and which ones are different? And I'd be there going, there are some that are the same? What? Can I go back? What was that last screen? What am I looking for again? And then it was gone. I'd be like, oh my God. So yeah, it was really interesting to sort of...
Did they send you like a online test that they did?
Yeah, that was basically how I went about it. Because you can't go to a doctor and get a diagnosis.
No.
So, and then, even then, they didn't really go yay or nay. They went extremely likely, because it's not something that you can do a normal diagnosis for. So.
And is there any therapy or any solution?
No, and I never really went looking. I didn't even think about that. I just went, oh, it has a name. Yes. I'm not horrible and stupid and moronic and all this sort of stuff that I'd always thought and always been told. So no, I was quite overjoyed just to find out that it was a thing that I could tell people. So I suppose that's my main solution, is telling people. If I feel that I need to, that I'm going to interact with them again. But there's also a prosopagnosia newsletter, and there's stories in there about other people and their coping mechanisms. Like I know one lady, she's got a badge which says, ask me about face blindness, to start the ball rolling, get conversations going. And her story of how she approached her boss and said, look, this is going to be an issue for me. Can we please get name plaques on on everybody's office so that I know who I'm going to see when I'm going to see them? And I thought, well, gee, yeah. And the boss went, oh, yeah, sure, why not? Like, it'll help out everyone else as well. And that's the thing too, like with most handicaps or disabilities, when you cater to it, you do help everyone else out anyway.
But it's still quite difficult just talking to people in general.
Oh, it is, and it does make it awkward. Like, I had 2 weddings, over a year ago now, that I went to, and where I only knew the bridal couple. And what before would have been impossible for me was still very daunting. But, at least I was going. I only had 1 panic attack with the first one, so that was really good comparatively. But I got there and I was talking to these people. We were in a circle. There was no planned seating. There were no, name tags or anything like that. And I'm just there like, oh my god. And you're having this nice conversation with people. And so I just made it really awkward. I just went, look, I'm just going to, put this out here now because we're having a lovely conversation, but I have prosopagnosia, which means I have face blindness, which means that I won't recognise you later. I'm really sorry. Please don't hate me for it. Ta-da! And there's this silence of like, what? And why are you telling us this? And this is really weird. But after that, it was okay. Like I had... one couple who'd been in the group had been saying about how her beer smelt like weed, and it was so odd. And so for the rest of the night, she'd come over and she'd go, weed beer, I was like, hello, you. And then I had this other person who came over and she introduced herself at least 3 times, which was really nice because I really do need that. Like the way I figure out people means that names are the hardest part of all. But yeah, so she'd come over and she was saying about how she has a lot of trouble with faces and stuff too, and how does it work, and lots of questions and whatever. And her husband came over and went, yeah, Jessica's husband, he was like, I don't care about my name, you know her, so you can know me through her. I actually saw them at a party almost a year later, like same bridal couple, one of them, birthday party, went to that, and she came over and she went, hello, I'm such and such, and we met from this and we were talking about this, and I just went, oh, thank you. And he walked up and went, her husband. So yeah, it was really, really nice and really kind and really helpful, and it just made the night so much better than it would otherwise have been, because going to those things, going anywhere, is a very anxious, gut-wrenching affair for me. So, but at least now I am armed with knowledge.
So tell me what it was like growing up.
It's all hindsight. So when you're a kid, you think about kids with sight problems, they don't tend to tell you. There's even ads on the TV for your child might not be able to see correctly. You won't know. You need to take them to an optometrist. They won't know. Well, I didn't know. I didn't see the same way as everybody else. So I do remember as a kid, because I was a competitive roller skater, so used to go all around Australia doing that, and there would be people who would be at the competitions who you knew had been at the other competitions, but it was, I'd have to wait for their name to be announced or whatever, and I'd go, oh yeah, no, I do know them. Or like I'd go to mum and mum would go, there's such and such, you know her, or da-da-da, that's the... And I'd go, okay, thanks, good, because I wouldn't otherwise. So I used to stick to my people, my group that I did definitely know, and just be bubbly and friendly to everybody else on the off chance that I knew them. And it was the same with school. Like I'd come out of school and I would wait for my parent to honk the horn so I'd know where the hell I was supposed to go. But I didn't really think anything of that. I just thought I was bad at knowing cars. Like it turns out it's not the car. And mum would say, oh, you walked out of school with that person. Who are they? What person? That one there. Oh, I don't know. It's like, who did you hang out with? Claire. Does Claire have a last name? Probably. Friends were difficult, and even now, that big chunk of your life where if you move back to your hometown, you're supposed to either hang out with or at least recognise the people you went to school with. Yeah, not me. Not fun. Had my mum and this guy had a full-on conversation about it at a pub one time. Like, he's come up and he's gone, "Oh, Lori," and I'm like, "Hello," and he goes, "You don't know me?" "No, we went to school together." "Oh, well, bully for you. I don't know." It was a while ago. Anyway, and he said it, and he was clearly drunk, and he's, and I said, "Oh, this is my mum," and he said, "Oh, she doesn't know me." And Mum goes, "Oh, I don't think she knows me half the time."
And it's just to clarify, if you get enough clues, you might be able to remember their person with a story, like, oh, that was so and so who studied maths and played soccer or whatever.
Yeah. So, like, I couldn't tell you what the two smartest girls in our year look like, but I could know them if they told me some stuff about their high school experience. And probably just talking to them for a bit, if I knew what I was supposed to be looking for, like if I knew where I knew them from, I can then bring that object identification down to humans from high school, humans who were in my year, female humans who were in my class in high school, and that is a much smaller pool, and that I have more luck with, you know,
because you've got thousands of faces you kind of have to file through and filter to get down to.
And when you think about it, it's more than thousands, because there's all the social media, there's all television, there's all the movies, there's a lot of faces in the world, you know, and any of them could be someone that I know or that I've just seen on telly, or, you know, that sort of stuff. Like we had the Prime Minister come to town, and people are going, "Oh, look," you know, and I'd be going, "I'll take your word for it. Sorry, sir, I don't know." So I'm actually really, really good with celebrities, with with actors, like movie and TV things, because first of all, I know where I know them from. Like, you're seeing them in a movie, so they're an actor, so that brings that range to that. And then they can't change their mannerisms. Like, it's very rare for actors to be particularly different in any role, and even if they are, their laugh is the same, their mannerisms are generally the same. Like, you try and change your laugh, it's not happening. It's very hard. Your mannerisms. So there's only been a few actors that stumped me, like Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's was phenomenal. There's movies where I've had to go back and check the names in it just to see if it's really him, because I can't pick him.
Wow.
Yeah, he properly acts. He was an actor. Whereas Jack Nicholson, you always know when you're watching Jack Nicholson, or Tom Cruise. It's always a Tom Cruise movie. The only time Tom ever stumped me was in that god-awful one, what was it, where they were in Vietnam, and he was in a fat suit and acting completely differently. Tropic Thunder.
Haven't seen it.
No, it's not worth it.
Okay.
But yeah, like, so most actors are the same. Like, you can always pick out Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise, you know, all those people. They're always the same.
Fascinating feedback for them, right? Like,
poor bastards, no. But I mean, so yeah, I'm my family's movie. No, I'm the TV guide. You know, I have been called from, like, Mum and Dad have been in Brisbane and given me a call and gone, "Watching this movie. It's got this person and this person and this person in it," and I'll go, "Okay, it's this movie. It's about blah 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 blah," and they go, "Ah, have you seen it?" "No."
So do you kind of have a bit of an encyclopedic brain when it comes to other information?
I wouldn't say that. I would say I have more scattered stuff, but there's a lot of random floats to the top. I sound like I'd be really good on a trivia night, but it sort of depends on which bits are floating and which bits are submerged at any one time. So movies, books fascinate me. Furniture I had to know, but it was interesting too.
You were telling me earlier that you know a book from kind of start to end, every book you've read.
Well, the basic plot, the outline of every book I've ever read, right back to the very first ones that I would borrow from my preschool teacher back in Happy Day. Yeah, I don't know. I retain the stuff that interests me, which is one of the reasons I got a lot of flack for not knowing faces, because I did have all this knowledge of all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But not people.
How did your family respond when you told them this?
Yeah, that makes sense. Mostly. Oh, my mum is still hilarious with it. She gets in, she goes, oh, you know, such and such. And, like, previously, I would try. I would really, really rack my brain, or I would sort of go, oh, yeah. It's bullshit. I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. No, oh, yes. There's no... She goes, you know, and I'd people say, oh, rings a bell. Oh, that rings a bell. Or no, no bells. They never have any bells. There are no bells. So she'd say, oh, you know such and such. And I'd go, oh, completely non-committal. And she'd go, oh, well, they blah, 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 blah. And I'm up there thinking, do I have to remember this? Is this one of those things I'm going to have to know? Is there a quiz on this later? Whereas now, she goes, oh, you know such and such. And I go, no, I don't. So the way she used to relate it to me with the furniture store, she'd go, oh, they bought the red Martelli and you had to order in the footstool. Oh, yeah, them. Yeah, because I could remember the furniture, and then I remember the interaction I had with the human who bought the furniture, and then I remember the human who I had the interaction with. And that was how it sort of worked for me. No furniture store now, so it makes it a bit harder. But, yeah, so she goes, oh, you know such and such. And no, I just don't now.
How did you manage interactions with people then? Like, what were you doing?
Pretending, playing a lot of pretend. So everyone's your best friend. That's just how it goes. You walk out the door, every human gets a bright smile and a hello just in case. And you know that thing you do where somebody waves and you wave back and they weren't actually waving at you? Yeah, that's been most of my life, because I don't know whether they're waving at me or not. I have no idea. Like most people have at least got some clue as to whether they know this person, and so they should wave back. I don't have that, so I have to always have that embarrassing moment of waving and then going, oh, it wasn't for me. Yeah, amongst friends that I did have, people that knew me really well, it was a bit of a comic thing how I would fake it, to the point where I used to go to White Night in Melbourne every year. I had friends there. A friend who I'd met online, we used to write together, and that was brilliant. And I've made a few friends like that, because then you can get to know someone without having to know their face. It's really, really good for me. But this is before knowing about prosopagnosia. So I made friends with her, and then I made friends with her friends, and so we'd go to White Night together. And one of her friends was always quite surprised at how brightly I acted with people or whatever, and she's like, but you're real B, you know, the rest of the time. And I was like, yeah, that's because I know you. So she thought she would test this unbeknownst to the rest of us, and she brought a friend of hers that the rest of us didn't know and told her about me, and sicked her on me in a supermarket in Melbourne. And so this girl's walked up, she goes, oh, Lori, oh my God, it's so good to see you, how are you? And I've got, oh my God, what are you doing here? You know, to the point where she turned back to our other mate and went, are you sure she doesn't bloody know me?
Wow. It's almost like she kind of knew that something wasn't right.
Well, I mean, yeah, it comes down to that whole you are shit with faces. You work it out when you're around me long enough. I have rocked up to meet them, and I will stand there looking around, lost, because that is the signal to people to go, hey, we're here. And then I go, oh, thank God, they put their hand up, I know they're here. And that was always what I did. Like if I had to meet someone at a cafe or something or whatever, if I was networking, God, I hate networking. I hate that that's the thing that we do in the world. But, you know, because I was part of the YWCA board and stuff, and I would go to Y meetings, you know, national and even one international, and you're supposed to know the humans you meet there and stuff, and they'd set up meetings or whatever, like we'll do this or whatever. So I would walk into a cafe and just look lost. You don't look at any of the people, you just look vaguely in the air around the place. I'm really lost, come find me, help me out, lost human. And they will take pity on you and they go, oh, here, you know, and then you go, okay, this is the one I'm supposed to meet, good stuff.
Wow.
So that's presuming that you've both met each other before. I have had points where I've had to meet up with someone that I have not met before. and they'll give me a description, and I have to carry that description with me and read it as I'm looking around.
What about as a child? Like, what were you seeing as a child when you interacted with people?
Well, one of the examples I gave in my talk was that my parents and I would go to department stores, and I loved that because that was hide and seek for one. Again, I did a lot of hide and seeking by myself. Only child syndrome. And so you'd hide under a clothes rack or something and just watch people, lots of people watching, very interesting. But then you'd have to find your parents again. And I would have to concentrate really hard on what they'd been wearing that morning. So I'd be like, okay, Mum had a white top on with sort of frilly sleeves, and that's what I would look for. And then I'd go, okay, and that kind of looks like, oh yeah, that's the right walk, that's my human. And I'd go over, and I would have been really easy to kidnap. I wouldn't have known who I knew or didn't know. Like, your mum said me, I'm such and such, remember? Yeah, sure, all right, let's go. I don't know.
Before you were telling me that as an adult you struggle with emotional regulation.
Well, yeah, because I didn't see faces when I was a kid. Like, you can see it in real time and get the information, but the retention of it, the retention of what a happy face looks like, what an angry face looks like, what your reactions should be to certain things, hard for me to retain. And that's where you learn them. You learn them as a baby, watching the grown humans around you react to things is how you learn reactions. But because the reactions didn't stick in my brain necessarily, so I've had to sort of reevaluate that childhood knowledge and put it next to the grown-up knowledge I have now. I mean, I've always had to think carefully about how my face works, what it's doing, because it's the way that faces work in my mind. I can mimic really well, and I do mimic really well. It's something I found with selling furniture. Somebody would come in and they go, oh, hey mate, I'm looking for a recliner, one of them layback chair things, and you go, yeah, nah, sure mate, no, come around this way. Whereas if somebody comes in and goes, I'm looking to purchase a recliner. Oh yes, of course, please come this way. I had to really watch it when people came in with accents, to not mimic the accents. Because it's not on purpose. I'm not trying to be rude. It's part of my thing. I will mimic you, so I will mimic the humans I'm around to fit in with them appropriately. And then
why?
So that you don't get shunned, so that you don't get
so it's
called
a coping
names.
mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism. Yeah, it's masking. It's and I've always done it. So I would go to parties, and I would find the human that I knew, and I would stick to them because that was safe. And then I would just mimic the way that they spoke, what they spoke about. I have no interest in gossip, but I can gossip with the best of them when I need to. You find some tidbit somewhere buried in your brain that you heard from something somewhere, and you pull that out, or you steer the topic to something that they know as well, and you can work with movies. That's one of the reasons movies are great. But yeah, I must have annoyed the bejesus out of whoever I used to stick to. I went to Thailand for a Lazy Boy conference, and there was this family who were nice to me, those poor buggers, because then I was on them, because I could recognise them. They came as a set of 4. I could always tell who they were. Out of hundreds of people there for this conference, I could pick these people out, and so I would just gravitate to them. And even while I was doing it, I was thinking, oh, leave them alone. I'm like, I can't, nowhere else is safe, I don't know what to do. So,
because you could tell them because they were in 4s.
So
it was really easy kind of way to pick people out.
Yeah, people who come as a set are great for me, because you've got so much more chance of figuring out who they are. So less so when you've learnt them in a set, and then you've got to figure out which one of the set they are.
How has been the response, or how do you manage face blindness now with people? Do you tell them straight away?
No, I don't tell them straight away. It sort of depends on how good of a conversation we're having, and whether I'm going to have to know it again later. So, because it does make an awkward moment, it really does. And I've spent my whole life avoiding awkward moments, because that's where you get the harsh feedback. So somebody comes in the shop, for example, and we're having this great conversation, and they say, oh, I'm going to come back through Broken Hill in a week or so, I'll come back and have another look. And you go, okay, well, I'll just let you know I have prosopagnosia, I have face blindness, so I won't recognise you when you come in. If you can just remind me what we were talking about, that would be great. And you get this moment of, and then you'll either get sort of skeptical acceptance, or you'll get a lot of questions. On occasion, I get tested, which I find fascinating that people want to test me on this. I had this bloke that I have known for a while, and I only sort of recently told him about the prosopagnosia thing because I was seeing him in the same place every time, so it was fine. And he's also very distinctive in his own right, so that helps. But he was like, so you don't recognise me? I said, well, not by your face. Like, I know you from here because I see you here. And that same week, we were both at a gallery opening, and I walked up, I'm like, oh, hello. And he's like, oh, so you know who I am? I said, you're wearing the same shirt, mate. And he went, oh, am I? Yeah, there you are. So that was really interesting. And I've had, we had a customer who was a neurologist, and he said, I've never heard of that. And he quizzed me a lot. He was like, what is this? And I gave him the link to the prosopagnosia website, the research, the newsletter, all that sort of stuff.
You mentioned just briefly your current work, so just for listeners, where are you working at the moment?
I work at Willy Nilly Art with local artist, it's local artist Amanda Johnson's studio and gallery and retail space. Fantastic place, you should come down, have a look. So yeah, I do the admin-y stuff, the non-painting side of things, and try to give Amanda as much time to paint as possible, although she's very popular, so there are days when she just gets nothing done because people go, oh, is Amanda here? I'm like, I'll check. And she's like, yeah, no, I'll say hi. It's quite a good place for me to work because, it had its own difficulties because she used to run classes. And I was supposed to check off who was coming in, grown-ups and kids, and check them off. And this is before I knew about prosopagnosia, so this is before I could say, look, I can't do this. Yeah. This is not a thing that works for me. So I just I ended up memorising things about these people that I could identify. But, God forbid somebody changed their hair or their glasses, or I had... there was one kid in the kids group who always wore cat ears, so I would know her from the cat ears. Except one other kid walked in one day with cat ears, so I called her by the other name, and she just looked at me like, what's wrong with you? I went, oh, not that human. Damn. It's like, well, why are you wearing the cat ears? Damn it. Don't do that to me.
So you've had to become really observant.
Yeah. I suppose I didn't really realise that I was, but yeah, I have had to become very observant and good with problem solving.
And reading people's emotions.
Yeah, good at that because when I'm looking at you, I can get that visual information. So it's just sort of later comparison that's hard for me. But I see, the way your eyes move and mouth movements and, little twitches and that sort of stuff. So, and voice modulation. I'm good with voices.
I was thinking of the game that you used to play as a kid called Guess Who.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose, I never had any trouble playing that because you pick out particular features of each of the things on there.
But that's what you're having to do kind of in your brain.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All the time.
Do they normally wear glasses? Do they normally have hair? That was always a good one with Guess Who. Are they bald? Chug, 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 chug. So things like age and race are hard for me unless it's glaringly obvious. I don't know if anyone else can do this, but I can't tell Italian by looking. It has to be by voice, by accent, by how much they want to feed you. Incredibly lovely, generous people, generally speaking, same with Greek.
So this journey, have you connected locally with anyone else who has prosopagnosia? Is that right?
Prosopagnosia, yeah. I just say it really quick. so you don't have to necessarily pronounce it right. I've spoken to one lady who she says that her husband has it, but I don't know. I've gone through so much of my life with not having to connect that I don't have to connect now. Does that make sense? So
such an interesting perspective you bring to life in every single facet, and even just your comment before about you're not needing connection as much. What do you need as a person? Like what brings you joy in life? And
the same stuff that everybody needs: understanding and compassion and what's another C word? What am I looking for? Consideration. I think if we amped up our consideration of each other just by a few percent, the world would be a better place.
That was Lori Emment talking about prosopagnosia or face blindness. Lori will be performing at the upcoming show Steel Magnolias at Theatre 44 from Thursday the 11th of April to Sunday the 14th of April.